Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open one of the world's most incredible spiritual guides to tackle a huge question for our modern times. How do you find peace in all this chaos without just running away from it all?
So let's just dive right in. This is a dilemma that feels so current, doesn't it? But believe it or not, it was perfectly captured thousands of years ago in a conversation that happened on a battlefield, of all places. I want you to just picture this for a moment. You have this legendary warrior, Arjuna, and he's looking across the battlefield, and he sees his own family, his cousins, his teachers on the other side. His duty, everything he's ever known, tells him he has to fight, but his heart is just breaking. He wants to escape the horror. And this crisis, this moment, it sets the stage for the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most powerful spiritual dialogues ever recorded. Now, Arjuna's first instinct is something I think we can all relate to. He basically says, to be spiritual, I have to get out of here. I have to abandon this messy, complicated, painful business of life. And this is the classic image we have of a renunciate, right? Someone in robes, living in a monastery or maybe a cave. They physically left behind their job, their family, all their worldly responsibilities. This path has a name. It's called Sannyasa. But here's where the Gita introduces a totally revolutionary idea. It draws this sharp, clear line between sannyasa, that's the external physical act of leaving, and something else called tyaga, which is inner renunciation. It's not about leaving the world. It's not fundamentally changing your relationship with the world. It's about abandoning your attachment to your actions, not the actions themselves. And here's the real shocker. The Gita comes right out and says that the path of engaged action, which it calls karma yoga, is actually superior to just withdrawing from the world completely. And the logic here is just incredibly practical. Think about it. You can't just stop your mind from working. It's always active. You could go to a cave to avoid eating sugar, but your mind can still obsess over it, right? Karma yoga says, don't run from the world. Instead, use your daily actions, your job, your relationships, as the real-world laboratory for your spiritual growth. So how do you actually do this? Well, the Gita breaks this inner renunciation, this tyaga, down into a three-part practice. First, there's phalatyaga. This means you let go of being attached to the results. You do the work for the sake of the work itself, not for praise or success. Then there's prakriti tyaga. You release your rigid ideas about how things have to be done. And finally, the deepest one, kartrutva tyaga. This is where you let go of the ego's feeling that I am the one doing all this. You surrender to a bigger picture. So this new way of thinking gives rise to a completely different idea of what a spiritual person even looks like. And it's probably not what you'd expect. This one line is an absolute game changer. The Gita says the true renunciant, the true sannyasin, isn't defined by what they wear or where they live. They're defined by their inner state. They're free from that constant push and pull of likes and dislikes, of I want this and I hate that runs most of our lives. This creates this incredible new archetype, the Raja Rishi, the royal sage. This is the king, the leader, the parent, the creator, who can act powerfully and effectively in the world precisely because they're not being driven by their own personal likes and dislikes or selfish wants. And this just brilliantly illustrates the point. A CEO leading a company with a selfless purpose, or a new mother acting out of pure unconditional love. They might be practicing a much deeper form of renunciation than a monk who has physically run away but is still just tortured by his inner cravings. Our daily lives, that's the real arena. All right, so what's the ultimate goal here? What's the payoff for mastering this path of inner renunciation while staying completely engaged with the world? Well, the state is called Brahma Nirvana. But listen, this isn't some fragile peace you can only find on a silent retreat. No, this is a deep, solid, unshakable stillness that you carry with you right into the chaotic marketplace of life. It's a peace that isn't destroyed by the noise, but actually thrives within it. Here's such a beautiful way to think about it. The realized person plays their part in life's drama with total commitment, whether they're a parent, a professional, a friend, but they never forget that this role isn't their true, ultimate identity. Inwardly, they're free. They're just the silent witness watching it all unfold. And this powerful image from the text just captures it perfectly. You know how water beads up and just rolls right off a lotus leaf? Well, in the same way, the consequences and the emotional turmoil of action just roll right off the realized soul. They are fully in the world, but they are not stained by it.
It's complete engagement without any entanglement.
The Gita poetically calls our body the nine-gated city, referring to our senses, our eyes, ears, and so on. The master of this city sits peacefully inside, just watching the gates open and close, observing the senses interact with the world, but knowing that their true self is the quiet observer within, totally untouched by all of it.
So this brings us to the core central takeaway. Your job, your family, your duties, these things are not roadblocks on your spiritual path. The Gita insists that they are the path. The highest spiritual realization isn't found by escaping our lives. It's achieved right through the very actions that make up our daily lives. So the Gita leaves us with this final, really challenging question to ponder. What if the very things we often try to escape, the stress, the duties, the complicated relationships, what if those are actually the perfect, divinely designed laboratory for our deepest transformation? What if the real path to peace isn't about escaping life at all, but about engaging with it more fully and more freely than we ever thought possible?